What if everything you thought you knew about buying and selling online was about to completely change? Imagine a world where artificial intelligence can predict consumer behavior, where tariffs can reshape global supply chains overnight, and where a single geopolitical decision can make or break an entire industry. This isn't science fiction, this is the e-commerce landscape of 2025. We're at a crossroads right now. Tariffs are going to increase, China's economic model is transforming, and AI and social commerce are rewriting the playbook for online commerce faster than businesses can adapt. These aren't just trends either. We're talking about a fundamental restructuring about how goods are sourced, sold, and delivered across the global marketplace. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to break down the 3 critical forces reshaping how we buy and sell online in 2025. We'll dive deep into the complex dance between US tariff policies, China's evolving manufacturing landscape, and the AI and social-driven technologies that are about to turn traditional e-commerce on its head. Whether you're an entrepreneur, investor, or just someone who loves understanding how global markets work, this is the information you're going to want to hear. Let's start with Donald Trump's proposed policies for his second term in office. Specifically, he has publicly stated that he'll impose a 10% tariff on all imported goods and a massive 60% tariff on anything coming from China. Now, on the surface, a 60% tariff sounds massive, especially when you realize that over 70% of the products sold on Amazon today are made in China. But does this mean that prices on Amazon are about to skyrocket by 60%? Not so fast. The reality is much more nuanced, and history can give us some clues about what might actually happen. Now, during Trump's first term, he talked about imposing a 45% tariff on Chinese goods. But that didn't happen. Instead, tariffs were rolled out in stages ranging from 7.5% to 25% depending on the product category. For example, I sell handkerchiefs and linens over at bumblebeelinens.com, and most of my products were only hit with a 7.5% tariff. So while the headline said hefty 25% tariffs across the board, the reality was much more subtle, with a lot of exemptions and lower rates for many everyday products. That's why I believe that even if Trump announces a 60% tariff on all Chinese goods, it's unlikely to actually play out that way. Bold promises like this grab attention during a presidential campaign, but when it comes to implementation, the details tend to soften. Even experts like Michael Feroli, the chief US economist at JP Morgan, are skeptical. He says the likelihood of a 10% across-the-board tariff in 2025 is relatively low, let alone a 60% tariff on all Chinese products. He also estimates that even if a 60% tariff happened, it might only raise overall consumer prices by about 1%. Now that 1% might sound low, and honestly, I think it's a bit optimistic. But Feroli's logic checks out. Businesses will likely absorb some of the costs or shift to suppliers outside China to avoid passing the full increase to customers. Someone asked me the other day about how to find suppliers in Mexico, and ironically, the best place to find suppliers in Mexico is Alibaba, because many Chinese manufacturers have relocated their operations over there. I've been selling online for over a decade, and during Trump's first round of tariffs, we barely raised our prices at all. Most businesses won't raise prices much initially to stay competitive, especially on platforms like Amazon, where even a small price hike can hurt your rankings and sales. Let's break this down with an example. Let's say you're sourcing a product for $1 and selling it for $4, which is a typical 4x retail markup. If a 60% tariff hits, that $1 cost becomes $1.60. Now, are we going to jack up the additional tariff cost 4x to $6.40? Probably not. In practice, sellers often absorb part of the increase to stay competitive. Instead of making a $3 profit, you might settle for $2.40. And in the grand scheme of things, it's really just a hit of 15%, which is like giving out a small coupon. Keep in mind that the higher your margins, the less of an effect tariffs will have on your business. For example, many of the products that we sell have margins of 90+%. Basically, a product that we source for $1, we can sell for $10. So if we fully absorb the cost of the tariffs, we'll take an $8.40 profit instead of a $9 profit, which is not a huge deal. If we decide to pass the 60-cent tariff to the customer, the price will only go up by 6%. Now don't get me wrong, it's still a hit, but it's manageable, especially when paired with Trump's business-friendly tax policies. During his last term, corporate taxes dropped from 35% to 21%, which helped offset the impact of tariffs. This time, he's proposing to lower it even further, possibly to 20% or even 15%. And for many small businesses, those tax savings can balance out the higher costs. So, while a 60% tariff might sound extreme, the actual impact on prices will likely be more measured. Tariffs get negotiated, exemptions are made, and businesses adapt. The big takeaway here? Don't panic just yet. If history is any guide, the effect of tariffs will be noticeable, but not catastrophic. As I mentioned earlier, if you're selling cheap Me Too products with low margins, tariffs will affect you much more dramatically. But if you have a strong value proposition and brand, you should be okay. By the way, if you're interested in learning how to sell profitable products online, make sure you sign up for my free 6-day e-commerce mini course below. Trump's policies are always beneficial to small businesses, and this free mini course will teach you how to start one. Now, what's far more likely to significantly impact e-commerce next year is the introduction of the new de minimis rules, which are set to roll out as soon as the government can get it together. Right now, companies like Temu, Shein, and other direct from China marketplaces have a huge advantage over US companies because they don't have to pay import taxes and tariffs as long as their shipments are valued at less than $800. Shipping direct from China to the US is also super cheap because of e-packet shipping, which allows Chinese sellers to ship packages from China to the US at a significantly cheaper rate than shipping domestically in the US. Just to throw some numbers into the mix, shipping a 1-pound parcel from China to the US costs around $1 to $1.50, while shipping within the US can cost several times more depending on the destination and the carrier. Well, this past November, the Biden administration introduced new changes to the de minimis rules to reduce the abuse by Chinese e-commerce platforms like Temu and Shein. And I'm fairly positive that Trump will carry on and enforce these policies to even a greater degree than what Biden had planned. Here are the 3 major changes in a nutshell. The first change is that any shipment from China will have to pay tariffs and duties regardless of the cost of the shipment. I have several friends that sell on the Temu platform, and their margins are razor thin. If they have to pay a 60% tariff on their products, that basically demolishes their profits altogether. The second and third changes are much more severe. The de minimis rules were originally enacted to level the playing field between domestic and international sellers, and the key term here is sellers. Basically, the rules were meant for businesses and not consumers. With the new de minimis changes, shoppers on Temu or any direct from China marketplace may now have to give their social security number to receive their packages. Now, I'm fairly sure that very few people will be willing to give their social security numbers to a Chinese company, so this will greatly hurt companies like Temu and Shein. The third change is going to require all importers to file certificates of compliance for anything that comes in from China. For many years, China has been selling unsafe and illegal merchandise to US consumers. For example, if you do a search on AliExpress for a phone charger, you'll find that none of the products are UL certified. If you plug in these cheap chargers into an outlet, they could cause a fire in your home. Remember those hoverboards from China that were popular several years ago? They basically died off because many people's homes burned down from the batteries exploding. Companies like Temu have been getting away with shipping children's toys with unsafe levels of lead, phthalates, and other harmful chemicals. Shein has sold cosmetics from China with harmful chemicals like mercury or hydroquinone, which can cause serious health risks, including skin damage or long-term toxicity. Under the new rule, buyers must file certificates of compliance to verify the safety of the products that they purchase. This legislation is expected to have a significant impact on marketplaces like Temu and Shein, potentially forcing them to raise prices substantially. In addition, the stricter de minimis rules effectively kills the dropshipping business model from China as well. So if you're thinking about starting that AliExpress dropshipping business next year, don't do it. Now, my final prediction has to do with social shopping, which I believe will continue to grow exponentially as platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook refine their shopping features and make it even easier for users to buy directly from their social feeds. Social shopping has already taken over, and the numbers back it up. Over the past year, global social commerce sales are estimated to have reached $570 billion. And this isn't just a passing trend, it is a transformation in how consumers shop. Consider this. The global social e-commerce market was valued at $448 billion in 2022 and is expected to grow at a staggering 31.6% through 2030. That kind of growth is almost unheard of in traditional e-commerce. In the US alone, the social commerce market was valued at $89.1 billion in 2022, with expectations to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 29.2% from 2023 to 2030. Platforms like TikTok Shop are doubling down, with over 200,000 businesses actively selling in the UK alone, a number that's just doubled in the past year. Now, why is social shopping growing so fast? Because it combines two things people already love: shopping and social media. The average person spends 2 hours and 27 minutes daily on social platforms, with nearly 30% actively seeking products to buy or gathering inspiration for their next purchase. Social selling works because it leverages the trust people have in creators and the influencers that they follow. Now, I'm an old Chinese man, and yet I still find myself using TikTok now to find new restaurant recommendations in my area. There's just something special about watching a short video of someone showing off a product or service that is very compelling. Based on the numbers, it is clear that social shopping isn't just a feature, it is the future of retail. So if you run an e-commerce store and you're not on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, you will eventually fall behind. The old days of scaling your sales with just Google and Facebook ads is over. Google search is already on the decline along with their ad platform, and Meta ads continue to get more expensive every single year. Meanwhile, with social media platforms like TikTok, you don't have to pay for advertising. If you can put together TikToks or shorts to engage your customers with an excellent hook, you can go viral for free. Or you can recruit an army of influencers on these platforms that will promote your products for a modest commission that is far more economical than paid advertising. What I love about the new social media is that your follower count is irrelevant. The reach of your content is almost entirely merit-based, and there are tons of content creators that have millions of views with very few subscribers. Plus, the content doesn't have to look professional at all. All you gotta do is pick up your phone and start filming. Right now, YouTube and TikTok are the primary lead gens for my business, and I anticipate that will only grow going forward. Now that you understand some of my predictions for next year, make sure you watch this video here for a more detailed understanding of the effect of Trump's tariffs on the global economy.